You start to notice, not all at once, not with a shout, not with an open rupture. It's subtle, it's almost invisible, but it's real, painfully real. You realize that you're losing yourself when you start to stay silent so you won't be left behind. At first, it seems like care, it seems like maturity. It seems like you're just trying to avoid unnecessary fights. But over time, silence becomes an internal scream, a scream that no one hears because you don't allow it. You begin to swallow your feelings, to prune your thoughts, to hide what hurts, all to avoid scaring someone, all to avoid displeasing them. And this takes a toll on you, more than you wanted to admit, more than you can sustain. The fear of losing turns into emotional imprisonment, and you become smaller. You shrink to fit into the space that the other person gives you, a space that, many times, wasn't even offered. You created it, out of fear of being too big, out of fear of being difficult, of being complicated, of being too much, so you learn to smile on the outside and suffocate on the inside. You learn not to cry in front of anyone. You learn to hold everything in so it won't become a problem. But your soul feels it and demands more. Little by little, you stop being who you were. You stop saying what you think. You stop dreaming big. You stop wanting reciprocity. You start settling for less, for crumbs, for at least we're still together. But this together is no longer whole, is no longer light, is no longer healthy. You are holding on where there's no support left. You are insisting where there's no true presence anymore. You are fighting alone for two, and no one notices. Because you disguise it well, because you smile even when it hurts, because you pretend everything is fine, so you won't be the reason someone leaves who's already going. You fear that any misunderstood word might be the end. Fear that any outburst could create distance. Fear that any boundary might sound like rejection. So you sabotage yourself, you let it go by, pretend you're not feeling anything, pretend you don't need anything. But you do. You need it so much it hurts. And that silence that seems like maturity but is making you sick. It's turning you into a hostage of others' absence, a hostage of fear, a hostage of a presence that no longer sees you, of a love that doesn't hear you, of a space that doesn't embrace you. You start to feel strange within yourself. You feel disconnected. You drift away from your own heart to keep someone close. But those who stay out of fear are not really there. Those who stay because you diminish yourself don't love who you are. They love who you pretend to be. You begin to realize that silence has become armor, and that armor is dragging you down. You no longer converse like before. You don't share. You don't open up, because every time you tried, you were accused of being dramatic, of exaggerating, of being insecure, so you close yourself off. You accept the bare minimum and try to convince yourself that it's enough. But it's not, and it never was. You notice this in the nights when you cry softly, in the anxiety that strikes when the message doesn't come, in the fear that grows when the other person pulls away a bit. You see it in the anger you feel toward yourself for being so dependent, in the guilt you carry for asking for the minimum, in the shame you feel for wanting more. You find yourself in a place where being honest has become risky, where being vulnerable is almost like asking to be abandoned. So you harden yourself, but inside you remain soft, wounded, alone. You don't want to lose, but deep down, you've already lost. Because those who lose themselves have already lost everything, and that's when your perspective shifts. You start to realize that staying silent out of fear of being abandoned is abandoning yourself for someone who may have already left you inside. You begin to see that love that demands silence is not love. That presence that doesn't embrace is not companionship. That relationship where only one person expresses themselves is imprisonment, not partnership. And you didn't come into this world to beg for attention, nor to beg for affection, nor to negotiate your essence. You came to be whole, even if it costs a few goodbyes, even if it leaves you alone for a while, even if it forces you to start over. You need to realize that there is no true love where you have to hide. There is no safety where you have to lie about how you feel. There is no peace where you can't breathe out loud. You need to reclaim your voice, your space, your courage to say, "That hurts me," your strength to say, "I deserve more." Even if you're trembling, Even if you're unsure, even if you're scared, you're not here to be silent. You're here to be seen, to be felt, to be respected. If the person by your side is frightened by your truth, it's a sign that they were never truly there. And maybe you have stayed out of fear too. Fear of not finding another love. Fear of feeling inadequate. Fear of not being loved again. But you didn't realize that you were already living in fear disguised as a relationship. That you were already alone, even while accompanied. That you were already begging, even in silence. That you were already being rejected, with an "I love you" stuck in the other person's throat. You need to remember that those who love you do not silence you. Those who love you listen. Those who love you want to know how you really are. Those who love you don't make you afraid to feel. If this has happened to you, comment, "I needed to hear this." You are not a problem. You are intensity. You are presence. You are living emotion. And if the other person doesn't know how to handle that, the problem is not you, it's them, it's their immaturity. It's their unpreparedness, it's their selfishness. You deserve someone who says, "Speak, I want to hear you. Cry, I want to hold you. Feel, I want to stay." And if there isn't anyone like that right now, be that person for yourself. Listen to yourself. Embrace yourself. Stay with yourself, with your truth, with your story. Even if everything around you tries to convince you that this is too much, it's not too much. It's the bare minimum. It's the minimum that you deserve. Have you ever experienced something similar? Tell me in the comments. Your silence has been shouting loudly, but now it's time to let go. Time to say everything you've learned to hide. Time to remember who you were before you had to stay quiet. Time to relearn how to realize that you also have the right to be welcomed. Because there's a part of you that still believes it will change. Believes that if you are lighter, more patient, more understanding, more silent, the other person will notice. They will see how much you give, how much you endure, how much you've already sacrificed. But what hurts is that they don't see, and maybe they never will. Because for someone comfortable with your silence, any sound from you feels like a threat. Those who have gotten used to you swallowing everything will call you ungrateful when you finally speak up. They will say you've changed. They will be offended by your pain. They will throw guilt back at you for having feelings, and you will wonder if it would have been better to stay quiet. But listen, you weren't born to live silently in a love that makes you suffer. You didn't come to justify feeling. You didn't come to apologize for being intense. It's clear how much you've shaped yourself, how much you've adapted, how hard you've tried to deserve love where you should be free. But deserving love is absurd, because love is not a reward. Love is presence. It's a continuous choice. It's recognition. And you have been ignored in silence, with kindness, with fear. You think that loving is enduring. But loving is also standing your ground. It's saying no. It's protecting what is left of you. And now this is what you need, to stop protecting yourself from abandonment and start protecting yourself from what has already emotionally abandoned you. Do you realize? Sometimes the other person has already left, and you're still there, trying to maintain the appearance of us. But that us has become a prison. It has become a sentence. It has turned into solitary sacrifice. And your soul feels it. It feels every time you swallow your tears and say you're fine. It feels every time you smile just to avoid being a bother. Feel every time you say, "Never mind," when what you really wanted was to scream. Your soul feels it and cries inside. And this pain doesn't show up in tests, but it weakens everything. Your spirit, your energy, your faith in yourself, your confidence in being truly loved. If this text resonates with you, share it with someone who needs to reflect on it. You're not exaggerating. You're not being too emotional. You're just tired of holding up the world without a place to rest. You just want the basics, to be heard, to be embraced, to be respected even when you're not okay. And do you know what true love is? The kind that doesn't make you walk on eggshells. The kind that doesn't leave you afraid to speak. The kind that hugs you even when you're not feeling friendly. Can you see the difference between being with someone who demands emotional perfection and someone who accepts you with your flaws, your fears, and your bad days? Over time, you'll realize that the silence you used to keep someone close was the same silence that pulled you away from yourself. And reclaiming that will hurt. It will be confusing. It will make you doubt if it's the right thing. But it is. Because there is no peace in being accepted for not being who you really are. There is no future where you have to disappear to fit in. You need to return to yourself, return to your inner space, that place where you can cry without guilt, where you can scream without fear, where you can just be without having to ask for permission. And that place depends on no one. It's yours. It's sacred. It's the home of your truth. If this moved you, write one word that defines you right now. Because you've come this far for a reason. And maybe that reason is to finally acknowledge yourself, to see yourself whole, even if wounded, even if tired, even if insecure, but still whole, not half waiting for another half, not a part begging for presence, but a wholeness that even in pieces is still worthy of respect, of being heard, and of love. And the next step isn't to chase after someone, nor to justify your feelings, nor to wait for the other to change. The next step is for you to decide. You will never silence yourself again to be loved. You will never diminish your pain to fit into someone who can't handle it. You will never choose the presence of those who confuse you over the loneliness of those who understand you. You deserve clarity. You deserve peace. You deserve a love where you can breathe. And this only begins when you stop betraying yourself. The real conversation starts now. Because if there's one thing you can't accept anymore, it's living a love where you have to disappear to be accepted. You've realized enough. You've felt the weight of being invisible in your body. You've heard in the silence the cry of everything you've kept inside. Now it's time to respond to that cry, not with more silence, not with more pretense, but with courage. Courage to listen to yourself. Courage to respect yourself. Courage to not abandon yourself once again for anyone. Of course, it's going to hurt. There will be days when you doubt your choice. There will be nights when nostalgia tries to convince you that it was better to keep swallowing your feelings. But it wasn't. You've already tried to keep quiet. You've already tried to be less. You've already tried to be what the other wanted. And still, that didn't make the other person stay. Not really. Not in the way you needed. Not with presence. With listening. With emotional commitment. So now, you don't need to try anymore. You need to allow yourself. Allow yourself to cry. Allow yourself to let it all out. Allow yourself to say, that hurt me. That destroyed me little by little. That is not what I deserve. Because there is nothing wrong with you, nothing wrong with feeling too much, with expecting too much, with wanting reciprocity. What's wrong is having to silence all of this to be tolerated by someone who claims to love you. It's not love if it demands your absence. It's not love if you have to hide your tears to avoid looking weak. It's not love if you can't say, I'm not okay, without the person turning their back or getting mad at you. You need a love that will listen to you even in silence, that sees you even when you can't show yourself, that embraces you even when you feel you don't deserve anything anymore. This love begins within you. You are your first home, the first embrace, the first voice that needs to be heard. If you keep silencing yourself to keep others happy, you will continue to lose yourself, and there is no love in the world worth losing your essence for. You know this, even if it hurts, even if there's still attachment, even if part of you is still hoping the other person will change. But now it's different, because now you are awake. You realized. You saw what you didn't want to see. And when the soul realizes, there's no going back. You may even try to disguise it, pretend everything is fine, keep smiling so as not to disturb. But inside, you already know that you no longer fit there. You no longer fit in this shallow relationship. You no longer fit in this absence disguised as presence. You no longer fit in this place where you have to ask for permission to feel. You've grown, you've hurt, but you've awakened. And now it's about choosing differently. It's not about revenge. It's not about demanding. It's about saying firmly and sweetly, I will not silence myself out of fear of being abandoned. So whoever wants to be here, let them truly be. Whoever wants to love, let them love fully. Those who can't handle the real you don't deserve the false version you created to be accepted. No more emotional crumbs. No more diminishing yourself to fit in. No more trying to save relationships where you are drowning. You aren't wrong for wanting to be heard. You aren't exaggerating for wanting real connection. You've just grown tired of surviving in bonds that erase you. And now, you will start to choose yourself. With calm, with kindness, but with firmness. You no longer need to justify your pain. It is valid. It is real. It is a consequence of everything you had to swallow alone. But now you are not alone anymore. Here you have a true space. A space where what you feel is not ignored, where what you live is respected, where your pain is understood. You can speak here. You can feel here. You can exist here. So tell me, what was the moment you realized you were staying quiet to avoid being left behind? Write it in the comments. Share your experience with me. Talk about what you've noticed, about what you've swallowed, about what has hurt you in silence. Your story matters. Your voice matters. If this video touched you, give it a like. It's a simple gesture, but it helps this message reach those who are staying silent right now. And if you want to keep diving into these reflections, if you want a space where you can be who you are, with everything you feel, with everything you carry, with everything you're still learning to heal, subscribe to the channel now. Here, you'll find more than just words. You'll find companionship, you'll find relief, you'll find mirrors. You'll find the strength you forgot you had. This conversation is just getting started. Your story isn't over yet, and you won't live it in silence anymore. If this resonated with you, the next video will resonate even more. Click here and keep going with me.